What's up, guys? Hey, don't let a bad partner ruin your joint venture. I recently spoke to an investor who lost everything because she trusted her JV partner. Listen, trust is not a plan when investing in real estate with a partner. See, joint ventures can be an amazing way to grow your business and achieve big goals together, but what happens when your partner doesn't deliver on their promises? Without the right legal protections in place, you could be left holding the bag, or worse yet, losing everything like this individual did because you didn't have the right entity set up or the right structure in place. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the top 10 LLC provisions every joint venture agreement must include to protect yourself from a partner who does not fulfill on their obligations. Whether you're new to a joint venture or you're a seasoned pro, these tips are crucial to ensuring your success and safeguarding your interests. So let's dive in and make sure you're fully prepared before you enter into your next real estate joint venture. All right, let's get started. Okay, so what is the number one mistake I see made? Well, it has to do with ownership and capital contributions to the joint venture. What am I referring to here with number one? So when I say that it's ownership and capital contributions, what I'm getting at, and I'm just going to put contributions here, is that when you set up your joint venture, you have to clearly define how much money each partner is going to be contributing to the deal and what they're going to get back in return for that contribution. Because this is what occurs time and time again in joint ventures. You get into a hard spot where you both put in money, but now you realize that project or your business needs more capital. Well, have you thought about who's going to be contributing those funds and what that looks like? Because if I had two partners right here, and both of them are in this joint venture deal together, and it was originally set up as 50-50, but now we need an extra $60,000 to get this project over the finish line or get that business moving forwards. If this person here has zero cash left and they want me to put in the additional 60,000 because I do have the money, well, then what do I get in return for that? Well, your operating agreement should clearly define that if this partner here contributes that additional capital because this one doesn't have it, well, then this ownership interest should definitely change possibly. So spelling this out is really important when it comes to your JV operating agreement. It's where a lot of problems occurs when we get down the road and more money needs to be contributed and one party can't make it. Then the other party feels like, hey, this isn't fair anymore because I have more capital at risk. So that's the first mistake that I see people make when it comes to creating a joint venture. Now, the second one is going to be what we call roles and responsibility. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, here's the thing. When you're going into a joint venture, typically one person is going to do X, Y, and Z, and the other one's going to do A, B, and C. So you want to outline these in your operating agreement. Put down the specific roles and duties and responsibilities of each partner so you have clear expectations, because violated expectations are what typically sink joint ventures. If I'm going into a deal and I think partner A is going to do certain things to get this business moving or move that real estate investment forwards, and they're not doing it, then that means I have to pick up that slack. Now, I've handled this different ways in operating agreements. One way to do it is that if that partner does not meet these clearly defined expectations and fulfill their roles and responsibilities, then their ownership interest is decreased by a predetermined percentage. So we both agree to that before we enter into the joint venture, so we know what the expectations are, because that work is going to have to be done by someone else. So this is really important, so you hold people accountable to doing what they're required to do in order to move this business forward. Now, the third one is really important. This is called decision making. All right. So who is going to actually be running the joint venture, and to what extent? So if I have this JV here, to what extent can they make decisions? So if we have two individuals right here, then is this person, this partner, going to be responsible for the decisions as far as, how much money is going to be spent on the thing, who's going to hire the contractors? And so when you get down to those types of matters, what you want to be looking for is, all right, who's going to be doing this? And then to what level do they have that authority without the consent of the other partner? And one of the things that I often look at is spending money. So if we need to make a financial decision as to how much money is going to be invested into this project on a particular aspect of the business, then up to a certain threshold, maybe that's $1,500, this person right here is going to assume the management control, then they're fine to do that. But if it goes beyond the $1,500, then it requires the approval of the other partner. Or if there are more than one, than of the partners, unanimous approval of all the partners. So this actually goes hand in hand with the roles and responsibilities that I mentioned as number two, in that when you're deciding the decision making authority, you're actually applying that or specifying that one partner has this decision control. And we want to make sure we have that clearly defined. So this is another issue that comes up a lot that I've seen before, where one partner will put in far more money into, say, remodeling the kitchen than we agreed upon in the budget. So they blow the budget. Now capital has to be recontributed. And so what you have is a problem with number one, two, and three that automatically blow up there, as you see, because we're just back to what I originally talked about. Hey, we're out of money. Now we need more money to get this project over the finish line. Okay, number four is going to be profit and losses, okay, as far as how they're allocated. So this actually really plays into one, or for two and three as well, is that if you have a joint venture where in this JV, this partner here is actually putting in 20 hours a week, and this partner over here is only putting in 5 hours a week because of the way we've specified the roles and responsibilities in number two. Well, if it's a 50-50 deal or 60-40 deal, maybe that isn't adequate when it comes to compensating this partner for the work that they're putting forth. So what you can do inside of your agreement is you can agree that, hey, the partner that's doing most of the work, we're going to give them a larger portion of the profits up to a certain amount. Now, that's just one way to handle this. There are other ways to do this as well. Or if you have one partner that isn't so interested right away in the profits, the income coming off the deal, they more want the losses, then you can actually allocate losses to that other partner, because maybe this partner right here, they're in a high income tax bracket, and the losses generated from this joint venture in the early years can help them out significantly. They don't necessarily need the income. So with profit and losses, you can specify in your operating agreement how they're going to be allocated amongst the partners. Now, you have to be careful here when you're doing this, because they have to have what is termed substantial economic effect to actually have the IRS respect them. Okay, so the fifth one, which kind of goes with roles and responsibilities, is management um, and control, okay, over the company. So you want to clarify who's going to manage the day-to-day operations of the joint venture and how those decisions will be handled. And what this provision really does is it prevents a power struggle. Now, you might be sitting here, if you've listened this far into this video, thinking, all right, Clint, sounds like you're repeating yourself because you said decision making is up here. Well, actually, there's two different things here, because when it comes to decision making, I've drafted joint ventures before where we have a definite manager who just runs the business, but the actual different affairs as far as dealing with the contractors, dealing with the county, getting insurance on the property, handling the banking and stuff like that. That's all specified out in the operating agreement to individual partners. But you still have one person who puts on the management hat. So it is different. Now, it doesn't have to be. You can say, hey, the management and control piece, we're going to define out decision making with that. And that's all going to go to this one party or two people. You can specify that in the operating agreement. But there are scenarios, as I described, where management control does not necessarily mean decision making. Okay, so do not confuse the two, they are separate. Okay, so the sixth thing that we have when it comes to a joint venture that needs to be addressed in your operating agreement is the exit strategy and buyout term. Okay, so we got to make sure we know what's going to happen if somebody wants out. All right, so what I like to do with an operating agreement in a joint venture is I look at this and I say, all right, what is the time frame, right? If we have two partners who are both going to be working in that joint venture, and one of them decides, hey, I'm a raccoon, I like my shiny objects, and I'm going to go over here and do something else. Well, that's going to come at a cost to you if you want out. Okay, so you need to specify in your operating agreement what a buyout looks like. And what I typically like to do there is I indicate that, hey, if you're going to come into this joint venture and you're going to get involved in it, and you have to commit your time to it, and you want out early, say within the first 5 years, then you're going to take a haircut. Maybe the only you're going to get back is 75% of what your contributed capital. That's what I can buy you out at. It doesn't matter that the property or the business has already gone up by 60%, because you're pulling out early, you take a penalty there. So you can get out, but here's how that buyout looks. And then you structure the terms as well. It's not an all cash upfront buyout because that's going to hurt the business. It's going to hurt me. What I'm trying to do, maybe it's a 10% down. I pay you out over time. So the exit strategy is very important. And there's a lot of planning that goes into this. Shotgun clauses are one that I like to use, that if somebody comes to me and they say, want to be bought out and we're past that initial hurdle amount, well, hey, guess what? I can turn that buyout around on you and force you to buy me out if you're coming at me with a huge inflated price. So there's a lot that you need to look at here. And going with that, that brings us to number 7. If you get crossways with your joint venture partner, you have to have dispute resolution terms built into that. And so what does this mean? Well, this is a process for resolving disputes. So if you can't agree on the buyout amount, or you can't agree on how decisions are being made inside of the operating agreement, even though it spells it out, I'm telling you, it does happen. Personalities get involved here. And it's not just the person you're working with. It could be their spouse on the side saying, oh, you can't allow them to do that. I know you signed the operating agreement. We need to stop this. So dispute resolution is a way in which you can save time and money and possibly the relationship between the partners. If you spell out, hey, if we can't agree, then this is a process we're going to go through, and we're going to let a mediator decide how we're going to resolve this issue. Because the last thing you want to do is just basically shut the whole thing down, blow it up, result in litigation, because that's just going to cost everybody a ton of money. All right, number 8, it's going to be non-competition. And I think this is really important for a lot of joint ventures. And I would actually throw in there confidentiality. It's hard for me to print that one out, but here, because I'm running out of space. But what does that mean? Well, protect your joint venture by including a non-compete and confidentiality clause that prevents the other partner from using the venture's information or resources to compete against it. Because, hey, maybe you come on to something here, you find some strategy, or you meet someone who is sourcing deals for you, and then your other partner thinks, well, hey, you know what? I'm just going to cut out my partner and I'm going to start working with this person individually because I could make more money if it's just me. Why split my profits? I know how to do this now. Well, that can be a problem for you guys, right? So specify in there that, hey, any information you learned from working in this joint venture, you cannot disseminate that to third parties. And any parties that we've met during the course of our business, you can't go out there and you can't compete with this existing business and destroy those relationships. So that's really important. Now, number 9 is going to be default remedies. Now, you're wondering, what is a default remedy? So a default remedy specifies, basically what constitutes a default if you failure to meet certain things. Like I talked about earlier, the capital contributions. All right, I briefly touched on that where I stated that if you don't contribute the capital, then your ownership interest is going to be diminished. Or if you don't do your job, then your ownership interest is going to be diminished. So this is where we specify that. It's in your default remedy. So this automatically happens when a party does not meet their obligation under the operating agreement. So that's what you would specify. And then the last thing I think is really important here is going to be dissolution of your company, or what we call winding up. All right, so you want to include a provision on how that joint venture will be dissolved and the assets are going to be distributed. So when we're going to shut the business down, when that JV ends. And this really ensures an orderly process, because let's assume that you get into a deal and it's just not working out. So maybe you specify ahead of time is that, if we don't hit these goals within 3 or 5 years, then the business will be shut down and the assets will be liquidated. Or on the reverse side, what I've seen happen, people get into joint ventures on real estate. They buy a piece of property, right? And the intent was they sell, but they're having a hard time selling it. So then they're going to turn it into a rental. Well, then when do we sell that property? Because I don't want to keep my money tied up forever. So you put that into the dissolution clause that, hey, every year, maybe if the property doesn't sell, we're going to go back out and test the market, or maybe it's every 6 months. And then you specify if we're able to get X amount of dollars, we're going to sell at that. And then the joint venture will be dissolved and the funds will be distributed out to the partners based upon the following schedule. And a lot of times that's going to be based upon your capital account. So when it comes to joint ventures, there's a lot of things to consider. And the mistake, as I stated earlier, is that when somebody tells me, oh, I trusted that person, I know right away when I get into that conversation, 7 times out of 10, it's going to end up that they lost the deal or they lost money because they put their trust in someone else. Don't put your trust in someone else when it comes to doing a joint venture. Put your trust in a valid operating agreement that will protect you. Hey, if you like this video and you want to learn more about this type of planning, I would encourage you to click on the link below. It's in the show notes. We'll put one up here on the video, how to get a free strategy session where we can walk through your next joint venture deal and help you get an agreement like I've just described with these very important provisions built in.